My name is Ellen Kokinda. I'm going to open up the staff hearing officer meeting for May 3rd, 2023. First, we have requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of X agenda items. I do not have any anything for item A. Item B is any announcements and appeals. I do have two announcements today. I'll go through them one by one. One is an announcement of the staff hearing officer decision for a coastal development permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 485 Braemar Ranch Lane. The project consists of a proposal to convert an existing single-story 445 square foot accessory structure to a detached accessory dwelling unit on a 61,419 square foot lot. The subject parcel is developed with a 3,072 square foot single-story, single-unit residence with an attached two-car garage which is proposed to remain. A one-car carport attached to the existing accessory structure is also proposed to remain, as well as 3 uncovered parking spaces. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a coastal development permit to allow the proposed development of the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and a determination that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines Section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. So anytime there is a proposed development that involves the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence, the application is reviewed by the staff hearing officer without a public hearing, and that's in accordance with the government state law, government code, section 65852.2. So this is the final decision, and it's a final action of the city. I can confirm that I went out on site to Braemar Ranch. I read the staff report, and I agree with all the findings, and I can go ahead and, this is an announcement that I'm approving the coastal development permit for the development, and can determine that the project is categorically exempt from further CEQA review. And that will, my approval also comes with the conditions that are included in the staff report. So that's the announcement on that item. I have another announcement for 361 Palisades Drive. This is again, a decision on a coastal development permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 361 Palisades Drive. The project consists of a proposal to convert the existing 393 square foot detached 2-car garage associated with an 882 square foot 1-story single unit residence to an accessory dwelling unit. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are the coastal development permit to allow the proposed development of the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and a determination that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines Section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. Again, there's no public hearing. I can accept written correspondence, but I did not receive any. And my action is final. The city's action is final and cannot be appealed. And I can also confirm and approve the coastal development permit for this particular project, as well as the determination that it's categorically exempt following staff's recommendations, and also add the conditions that are included in the staff report. And I wish both owners of Braemar and Palisades well as they develop their ADUs. Okay, moving on to our first agenda, forgive me, I need to open it up for our public comment for items not on today's agenda. So if anybody in the audience wishes to speak on any item that's not on today's agenda, you can do so by raising your hand. I did receive written correspondence from Ryan and Shannon Gould for another project, but we will be seeing that later and at a future date. And Ms. Gu, do we have anybody joining us by Zoom who wishes to speak on general public comment?
Viewing Zoom, I do not see anyone with a raised hand at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close general public comment and now turn it to our first item, which is, hang on. Actually, there's one little typo on the slide. It's 1187 Coast Village Road. This is a 48,095 square foot site. It's currently developed with a 2-story mixed use building and associated uncovered parking. The project proposes installation of 2 prefabricated structure patio cover systems comprised of trellises with columns and motorized retractable solar shades above the existing dining decks along Coast Village Road. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a setback modification to allow a 2-foot, 10-inch encroachment into the required 10-foot front setback, and a determination that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15301, existing facilities. So we have Ms. Burkhart here today, who is the case planner. And Ms. Gu, if you could switch to our plans.
Ms. Kokinda,
And then
looks like
actually, let
we-
me pull that up.
yeah.
Hang on.
Screensaver. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kokinda. First, I want to take, oops, jeez. First, we'll look at a rendering here.
Do you mind just
Oh.
Xing out of that little blue box? That's going to drive me crazy. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Let's see. This rendering shows the proposed project. Not sure how to zoom in further. Let's see.
I think if you go toggle at the very bottom, try, there you go.
Oh,
Can
there
you
it
zoom
is.
in?
Thank
There
you.
go.
Okay, so this shows the proposed project pretty well. It's the two shade structures here along Coast Village Road, which would be installed over the existing dining decks. Let's see. This is sort of a floor plan type of view. The seating here, shown on the decks, was approved in 2015 as part of a larger site improvement project for the development on site. And now the applicant is just proposing to cover that with these patio shade structure. The brand is called Structure with an X, as referenced in the staff report. We have some elevations showing how it would extend out over the decks. The decks do encroach into the front setback. A modification was approved for that back in 2015. So now a modification is being requested to allow this covers to be directly over the decks in these areas. And staff finds it to be an appropriate improvement. The project has been to the Architectural Board of Review, who found it aesthetically appropriate. A coastal exemption has been granted for the project. Staff has found it to be exempt from CEQA review. And I think that's the end of my presentation. I'll hand it over to the applicant to walk you through the plans further.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you could just introduce yourself for the record. Thank you.
Kyle Dixon, Windward Design Services. So the proposal here is to help, pardon me, is to help provide coverage during the seasons. We've had a lot of rainy events, which impacts the outdoor seating, which provides a lot of occupancy space. If you see here, as mentioned, the structure project or the product is a prefabricated system with its own louvered door, or louvered motors and louvered screen system. It can be provided in any color, any aesthetic. It matches we believe it matches the look of the structure with the coloration that you see here in the render. Let me get in on this a little. But yeah, the set height will match the fascia, the existing fascia. The system itself is isolated by the posts that support the structure. So we don't believe at this time it has any actual impact on the current roof system. And that's how our calculations have gone. The post systems here shown in this detail sit beneath the existing deck, and they will help support the unit free of both the deck and the roof assembly. If we look through these systems, here's kind of a pre-look at how the structure product appears. It's very modern, I guess, in a sense. Good steel metal work. A lot of it will be a metal assembly. And here is the current conditions out on site. We have no type of coverage at this point. They're currently using umbrellas as shown here in this bottom photo. So I do believe that this would be a general improvement to the space as a whole. Outside of that, there's not much more I can say. It's,
Okay, I do have
unique
some
deck
questions,
systems.
but I'll open it up to public comment and then come back to questions. So at this time, if anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this item, you can come up to the podium and introduce yourselves. In the meantime, I'll ask Ms. Gu if we have anybody attending via Zoom who wishes to speak.
In looking at Zoom, I do not see any raised hands at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone interested in speaking, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and then I'm going to go through some questions. So does it retract, or does it's not mechanized in any way, or is it's just
So the system
Or
is
the-
motorized.
it's
but-
motorized, so it
yeah,
can like
louvers,
do that.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
but there's no retracting
No,
and coming back.
no.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yes.
Okay. And then what were there other, you mentioned in your letter, but can you just walk through any other alternatives that you looked into?
So right now, this system is something that we've used previously. The product is reliable from our experience with it, and it does have a good response from our previous clients and patrons who've used these types of systems. As an alternate, I think we would be looking at something wood framed that would be mounted onto the fascia. And currently with the existing structure, we don't know what type of impact this would have on the roof membrane or the types of loads that would be distributed if this was a fascia-mounted assembly. So using the isolated posts that are provided by the structure system will allow us a way to provide the coverage with little impact on the overall structure itself.
Okay. And then, so I read the ABR minutes, but it's pretty basic. There's not really much comment. So would you mind just sharing what the ABR had to say beyond the minutes, or just what the conversation was?
I do not have record of the ABR minutes personally.
At the meeting, they did discuss, there was some discussion. For a portion of the discussion, they were a little concerned about the amount of posts, but they got past that. They resolved it in the end. They felt that it's a small project, and that it's aesthetically appropriate, and they ended up being fine with this iteration or this
Okay.
proposal.
I was just wondering if they had any issues with like bringing out the bulk coming towards, but I mean, again, the minutes reflect that they were supportive. I just want to recognize
Yeah.
that, but I just didn't know if they toiled with that, or if,
Not
if
with
there was.
bulk. I think
Okay.
really the conversation was about the amount of posts involved, but they ended up being okay with that.
So one other question, I did go on a site visit yesterday and was looking at the conditions, and right now, the signage for all the businesses is further towards the back, and I'm not the sign committee, but I'm just kind of curious, seeing this proposal, you're showing the signage on this new trellis feature. So just curious if that's, just what you intend to take to sign committee, or what the thinking is behind that.
So yeah, right now, the way the signs are arranged, they're up against the backside of the structure, the existing structure behind these proposed covers. By bringing the signage to the front, it'll help distinguish which structures and which buildings are in those locations. It helps provide a path of travel and an easy approach for visitors, tourists, patrons, anyone coming to the site. As for the overall look of the sign, we do want sort of a uniform appearance as is on the existing structure, but whether or not it will be these size, these large letters or not, we've yet to determine.
Okay.
And I can add to that as
yeah, please.
well, Ms.
Go ahead.
Kokinda. The development on site does have a sign program, so it would kind of be technically two applications, one to amend the sign program and then one to request the new signs. But I spoke with sign staff, and it can go together
Okay.
to the
Yes.
sign committee.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. So like I said, I did go out on site and I looked at the existing conditions and saw a whole bunch of umbrellas, a slew of umbrellas. Not that that's bad. I mean, they look nice, but I understand trying to find a more permanent fixture out there and understanding that this already received a front setback modification to extend the dining in that area. So I do think that this is I agree with staff's assessment that this is an appropriate improvement on the site. And again, for all the reasons for sun and rain and trying to create kind of improved spaces for patrons along Coast Village Road. So yes, I can approve the front setback modification and find that it's consistent with the purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance regarding C1 zone, given that the new patio covers don't affect any of the surrounding residential land uses in terms of light, air, and then the different visual amenities. And that, again, it just further enhances this particular dining area that's already been approved. And then I can also affirm the staff's determination of that it's categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA Section 15301 for minor exterior alterations involving negligible or no expansion of use. And I guess my question is whether, I just want to make sure that the signs portion doesn't just fall through the cracks. So I'm asking staff right now, I could add a condition to follow up with, making sure that the sign program, but I would prefer your input of what's the best way, because it's kind of adding an obvious, but I just don't want to lose, I want the applicant to be aware and make sure that the sign program is changed.
I do think it would be appropriate to condition the approval that the sign program is amended and the new signs are approved prior to a building permit being issued for the
Perfect.
patio structures.
Okay, great. So I will add that condition that the applicant shall go back to the site or submit a sign application for the revisions to the existing sign and the sign program, and that really no new signage should be put up until you get final approval from the sign committee on that. I'm not going to condition your project to be reliant on that, but does that make sense that you need to, basically you need to get your sign permit so that no new signage should be added to a trellis before getting final approval from the sign committee is the intention. And that concludes my decision. Ms. Gu, if you could just switch back. My decision can be appealed. This is within 10 calendar days. Anyone can appeal my decision, or any member of the Planning Commission could suspend my decision if they should choose. But thank you for your project, and I wish you well moving forward. And this concludes the staff hearing officer meeting for May 3rd, 2023. We are adjourned.